Why? How would you explain that? They're being taught by parents who don't know as much, supposedly. They don't have the degrees. They don't teach in a government school. How could the students learn?
They enjoy learning more.
Because they make children to interest more in the lessons.
Exactly.
And to read more.
You're right. They instill a desire to learn. Studies have shown that so often in our traditional schools, that although the students come to the first grade eager to learn, most of them, oh, school, this is great, you know, friends, I want to learn. By about the fourth grade, their attitude changes. It's like, oh, get me out of here. But in homeschools, the students' desire to learn continues, grade after grade, year after year. That's a strong virtue of homeschooling. And as a result, the perceptions of homeschooling in America have completely changed. Now you have some of our major universities like Harvard, Princeton, they're looking for homeschool graduates. That's the kind of student they want. Their test scores are high. They're winning national contests like spelling bees. Over and over again, the champion spelling bee often is a homeschooler. So I think that's an option that we need to continue. And I'll close by just saying that if you're thinking about how can we improve education in Romania, I would make two suggestions. Well, three maybe. One is to try to build reforms along the lines that I've suggested. Choice, accountability, parental involvement, anything that moves things in that direction will generally be very helpful. But you can do some very specific things too. One might be allow tax credits to parents who choose a private alternative. Why should parents be forced to pay twice? Now, here's a creative way a tax credit is kind of like a refund on your taxes. It doesn't have to be the full amount that you pay in taxes for schools. It doesn't have to be the full amount that the state spends per pupil. You could start out with something smaller. In fact, in Michigan, we said, look, the state is spending about $8,000 on average per pupil. Let's give parents a $4,000 tax credit if they take their child out of the public system and put them in the private system. Okay? What does that do for the public system? Well, it means the state saves $8,000, but it only costs them $4,000. So what's the net difference? $4,000. Every time there's a migration of a child from the public to the private system, the state saves $4,000. The child gets a better education. And with the savings of $4,000 in the public system, you could, if you want, you could give that back to taxpayers through a tax cut, or you could put it in the public schools to further, perhaps, if there's a need for that. We've always said, let states have choice, that option. So tax credits might be a way to proceed to improve education here, to give parents an opportunity to send their children to private school. And then another recommendation I would make is to seriously open up the education system to homeschooling options. When parents know that there are things out there like the Khan Academy, resources on the web, software that's now cascading forth from educational resource companies, homeschooling is more possible than ever before. I understand that in Romania, you have private competition, private provision in kindergarten, right? You have choice, you have accountability, you have private provision. Then that kind of disappears, right, from first grade to high school. And then you have a little bit of private options in high school and some private options and choice and markets in universities. The question we should all be asking is, what's wrong with grade 1 through 12? Do parents suddenly at grade 1, the interest that they had in their child for kindergarten disappears, and now the state has more interest than they do, and then that comes back later in high school? I mean, it's ridiculous. So look for ways to open the system up to choice, competition, and accountability. With that, I know I've gone a long time. I should end and open it up for questions. Thank you for being so attentive. You're a great audience. Questions?
I have a question regarding homeschooling. How do you integrate this with the system? For instance, in Romania, from my knowledge, I have no knowledge of the possibility of having a pupil or a child homeschooled, and then equivalating the diploma with something that you graduate in a normal high school or something like this. How do you do this in the United States?
In the United States, it wasn't easy. As I say, about 25 years ago, a lot of people were unaware of homeschooling, or they had a negative perception of it. But there was a homeschooling association started that has tried to educate the public about, hey, it can be done, it is being done, it can work well. And through that process, more and more publicity helped to educate the general public. So now they have, and that came at the same time there was growing awareness that there are deep problems in the public system. So parents were open to new options. And now that we have so much home education happening, almost everybody knows a homeschool child. So they can see it in their midst now, and that's only spurring it further.
And do they have, after graduating, sort of, I don't know, checkpoint grade, where they have their grades from home? So,
yes,
so,
yeah, they typically do, and some states actually do require, they don't care how you get there, but they do require that the students take certain exams.
I see.
So that you can compare. Or some colleges say, look, if we like homeschool students, but you do have to take an entrance exam. We want to know how much you know. So that's pretty well taken care of. But they don't. The government doesn't regulate how the student gets to the point of passing an exam. Parents have much more freedom to use innovative methods. So the state is saying, we only care that they know. We don't care how they get there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I'm from Germany, so I have also a question to this homeschool teaching. In Germany, at least, more and more parents have to work.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot stay home. So there's big discussion, and even now they bring their children at the age of 2 years old in the so-called pre-kindergarten. So that might be an issue maybe of how to do that. And then a second question is, what I think maybe, because if you go to school, you interact in a classroom with other fellow pupils, and so you learn social skills also,
Yes.
which you might not maybe learn as much as if you just taught by your parents. And so you might be a very intelligent person at the end and pass all the exams, but your social skills may be very poor, let's say. So what do you think about that?
These are very good points. The first one about, well, some parents work. I would never argue that homeschooling is for everyone. Any more than I would say that only one system, one program, one magazine, one book should apply to everyone. Homeschooling would not work well in some homes. All I'm saying is allow those homes to make that choice. Because in some homes, it would be the best choice. And any law that prevents it is simply saying to those households, you can't do a better job. So you're right, in some cases it wouldn't work. Although, because of the internet and software and other technological changes, that's becoming less and less of a concern. It's easier to do it, even if one or both parents work at home than it used to be before. So that may be lessening. On the social skills issue, this was one of the concerns that was popularly expressed in America maybe 25 years ago. We used to sort of joke about it at our office. Every time we saw, say, Michigan State University, after a big football game, there was a riot, and property destruction, we would joke and say, the homeschoolers are at it again. And the reason that was funny was, it was not the homeschoolers who supposedly didn't have the social skills. It was the non-homeschooled children. Homeschooled children tend to be very respectful of property. But the homeschool community has responded to this concern by becoming much better organized. And so now it's very rare for homeschooled children to never leave their home. They have competitive athletic programs that involve whole communities. Even in places where parents are not, homeschool parents aren't given a tax credit, they do have places where the government schools say, well, at least you can use our gymnasium. After all, the taxpayers, you're paying for it. So they have interaction even with government school children. At our foundation, we have a program that serves homeschool debate clubs. There is a thriving competition all across America of homeschool debaters, debate societies. And when we do a debate program, we get 300-400 of them who come. So there's lots of opportunities now for interaction in person. So I think I think the social skills question now in America is not raised anymore, simply because they get lots of interaction. And you know what's important? There's an educational theory that suggests that the interaction that's most important for children as they develop is not peer-to-peer, it's interaction with adults. That there's an immense amount of information to learn there. And so you often have homeschool communities where parents come in and they're interacting with other parents' children in an educational setting, and that's very beneficial to the students. So you don't any longer see that issue of isolation and lack of social skills. Yes?
Actually, it's not an observation. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming today. It was a pleasure to hear you.
My pleasure.
And I also wanted to say that I am actually a product of homeschooling because I was forced to learn in a system described by you earlier. In Romania, before 1990, you know, we had a communist system here.
Yes.
With my father, Ceausescu, and his wife, my mother. So I was forced every day for 5 hours to lose some time in school, in public school. And then came the real school. Of course, my parents were going to jobs, who were out of Bucharest because they were forced by the communist government to work out of Bucharest. And I was raised by my grandmother, who came from an aristocratic family. So I took lessons of swimming, English, French, and so on. And my colleagues can say that I don't have social problems now. But I have a problem that my family didn't get their money back. I can say that I learned so many things in 12 years of school. I didn't go to kindergarten. I stayed there for 2 days and I ran. So that was my observation. And I also want to say that I'm very glad that today are so many young people. I know that half of them are coming through an Erasmus program. So I am very glad that we are using public money in a good way.
You know, you made me think of something. In a sense, we're all homeschooled, at least partially. Is there anyone who never learned anything at home? Did you, what you know, did you learn only in the classroom? So you're partially homeschooled.
And you learn not by listening to your parents or grandparents, but doing things with them and seeing them. It's more important than listening to them.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at all these ideas that you gave, and I'm trying to put them somewhere in the Finnish model of schooling, where you have 95% of schools that are public, and very small amount of private ones that, as far as I know, are not doing so well as being private. And I know that because I've been there as a student for half a year. And the idea in Finland is like this: if you're a school and you get money from the state, and supposedly it's free. We all know that it's coming from